Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have a single story with a whole bunch of updates from the TrueOffMyChest subreddit. Please make sure to give us a follow on your podcasting platform of choice, and if you're on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button down below. It really helps us out. Alright, on to the story. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Constant Barnacle 992. I ruined my wife's life. I, male 43, try to do my best to provide for my wife, female 38, and 2 kids, 3 and 5, as well as my mother-in-law, and would like to think I'm doing a decent job. Over the years, I worked to improve our family's living situation. Not only did I complete another bachelor's and recently master's in a STEM-related degree, I, at the same time, worked 2 full-time jobs while completing my second bachelor's, and put my wife through school as well. She completed a degree where she could make good money, 60 to 70K a year, in a healthcare field that always has jobs available. But with the birth of our 2 kids, she has since given up on her career to be a stay-at-home mom for the time being. At first, it was a struggle while I was finishing up my master's. Once I completed it, after our youngest turned 3, my career took a jump up, and we are now able to afford our single-income household in a more feasible manner. We are far from rich, but do okay for a single-income family of 4, a little north of 150K base plus bonuses. The past year, life was overwhelming per my wife, so even though I now work 75% from home, I budgeted to hire a daytime nanny to help her around the house with 1 child while the other is in school now. My day starts every day around 5:30 to 6 a.m. I get the house ready for the day before the nanny comes at 8 a.m. I get our oldest up and ready for school, breakfast made, and plan out my day, bring our oldest to drop off, and be home in time to let the nanny in. My most recent task at work has me grounded for the next 2 months, meaning I am now 100% work from home. While this is nice, I am busy in meetings all day as my role manages teams on a global scale, as I oversee projects from my industry. For the past 1.5 months, I realized my wife, as much as she says her life is stressful at home, starts at 10 a.m. I asked my mother-in-law and nanny if this was always the case after a week or so of work from home, and they both responded more or less, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. My wife literally wakes up and cooks and then scrolls through her phone or shops from home, which brings me to my gripe. I'm glad I'm able to provide her that sort of life, since we both grew up lacking in means. I get the possibility of postpartum depression, the stress of having kids, the feeling of being unfulfilled, the fact that I probably am a crappy husband. But for what it's worth, everything is taken care of, and then some. I manage the house finances. She claims she was too busy to do so. Pay all the household bills. I pay my own personal bills. I pay her bills. Track and perform all of the upkeep on our house appliances, cars, pets, etc. And I also help pay for mother-in-law's medical bills and car note. But apparently, my life is on easy street compared to hers. I can't decompress to her because it seems like she always feels the need to one-up me. I had a bad day, but she had it worse because I'm lucky I got to go away and work. My feet hurt from walking all day during work travel, which is nothing compared to her standing and cooking with a child clinging to her. For the past 2 or so years, I've been told I ruined her life, her opportunities, etc. But when I reminded her of what she says, she denies and dodges accountability. My mother-in-law has brought me aside and stated she's noticed a change in both myself and my wife. I have a greater attachment to my kids, and heck, I've hugged the dogs and talked to them more about my life than to my wife. I honestly feel like I'm in emotional survival mode as I'm 1 step from moving up the career ladder and 1 step away from finding love and comfort from the bottom of a whiskey bottle. I'm sure I'll be hearing from the manly men of Reddit about how I'm simping, but I'm not a machine. I just want to know and feel that someone I prioritize aside from my kids appreciates and loves me for what I do. I'm sure I'll hear from the stay-at-home moms of Reddit, which is fine. I grew up in a single-parent mother household. It's not easy, and honestly, with the help of her mother and a nanny Monday to Friday for 1 toddler while another child is at school, can you honestly tell me she's having the typical stay-at-home mom experience? because neither my friends nor colleagues who are single parents can say she is. I'm sure the masses of holier-than-thou Redditors will consider this a poorly written fanfic, but it is what it is. OP added an edit down below. It says, "Thank you for the replies. To add more context, 1. I never cheated. I do work in an industry that has a large female population, but I'm literally an open book with work, name colleagues, and staff under me. She has access to my work agendas and correspondence if she really wanted to snoop. But on that note, she still doesn't know exactly what I do for a living at this time. 2. We as a whole family, her parents and mine, have tried to get her to go to therapy, but she refuses or skirts around the issue. 3. Aside from my coming from a single mother household per se, my biological dad was present in my life. She has had both parents in a reportedly monogamous marriage for over 40 years. 4. I've tried to talk to her about everything and my own feelings, but again, one-upmanship tends to be the trend here. 5. What I am getting out of the marriage was asked. Now, aside from my 2 beautiful kids, I've been asking myself that same question. We have a near non-existent physical relationship mainly since last year. I always figured maybe it's a part of depression or whatever she may be going through. Maybe I'm just not attractive enough or horrible in bed because of my health conditions. I'm not some supermodel husband, but temptation and opportunity does knock, and I can perform still, but I never give in, because as cliche as it sounds, I honestly do love my wife and want to only be with her. 6. I'll give credit where credit is due, as I don't want to sound biased. When I say she wakes up and cooks, she cooks for everyone in the house. Myself, kids, mother-in-law, and even nanny. Aside from breakfast, she cooks all meals and snacks. I typically fast until lunchtime, and our oldest tends to eat a small, simple breakfast in case they don't like what school serves that morning. She does load both the kids and her laundry, but seldomly folds and puts them up. I typically do my own, and the rest of my clothes I dry clean because they're work clothes. She does keep track of our pantry and fridge, but after she makes the list, I'm the one who goes out and buys everything if not delivered. She does clean our bathrooms and house 50% of the time. The other 50 is done by either mother-in-law or myself, or sometimes nanny if she feels like being extra helpful. 7. Prior to nanny, my mother-in-law was the main help for my wife up until she had unexpected medical needs, so I opted to hire a nanny to help them both. More so when mother-in-law is having treatments and recovering. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Maleficent Spite 9043. It says, "As a working mom of 3, I'd kill for this life. Sounds like she needs to work at least part-time to gain a purpose and reality check." Another commenter down below called Veloxoraptor said, "Hi, stay-at-home mom here as predicted. She's taking advantage of you. I know taking care of kids is hard, but what is she actually doing? Because from where I'm sitting, it reads like you do everything while she just bitches and complains, usually to you, about you. Sounds like she's checked out of the marriage and parenting role and just hasn't asked for a divorce because you're bankrolling her. I don't know if it's PPD, generic depression, or something else. She's miserable and making you miserable alongside her. She needs to either get herself some help, get a part-time job at the very least, or get the F out. Sit down with her when you have the time in between doing literally everything and try to get to the bottom of things. Express your concerns in a non-accusatory manner and ask her what's up with her and how she feels things can be mended. Honestly, if she refuses to talk, blames everything on you still, and or expects you to put even more work in, your marriage is over. You would be amazed at how much less stress you have when you don't have someone dragging you down and making you feel like crap along the way. Yep, OP's wife in this case sounds like they're incredibly entitled. They're not really a stay-at-home mom. Yes, they do a bunch of things, but they have a nanny there. That's not the definition of stay-at-home mom for me. A nanny is usually somebody that helps out when you're working or not able to be at the home taking care of the kids directly. I guess we don't know the full story here though. OP has updated this a few times, so let's get into the first update now. This update was posted right at the top of the previous post and it says, Update 06 May 2024. Not sure if anyone would read this, but thank you for those who have reached out and chit-chatted. While I know I've kept my newfound friends here updated, I figured I'd just update my post and keep it short. I showed my wife my post the following weekend, and she read it, and all the comments. Long story short, argument. She left our house to stay with her sister, and I've been a single parent since. It's sad to say, alongside from the good nights to our kids, it's all pretty much the same routine. Nothing much else to say other than thank you for all the kind words of encouragement. Just need to add, this post got bigger than I expected from a venting post, but I've responded to a few comments. Nonetheless, thank you for the comments and DMs, and more so for the offers to let me ruin your life, haha. It's been the highlight of my day and night as I sit here drinking with my dog while everyone is asleep. It feels depressingly sad that I feel that I have to turn to random internet strangers for some sort of validation in my rant. My apologies in advance as I try to keep this as vague as possible. One more comment down below this one from a user called Sophie Shadow says, "Dude, what are you doing? You're supposed to be a team and she's taking you for an absolute ride. I totally understand because I've nearly finished my PhD and run my own business. My husband works a manual job full time and we have a 2-year-old son and some pets. Occasionally, I feel like I'm taking on too much of the mental load, so we sit down and talk to each other calmly and figure out how we can work well together. Through the week, I go out to work when he gets home from work, so we try very hard to keep the love in the relationship, but it has to come from both sides. If you guys were to sit and write down what each of you contributes, then it would be leaning very heavily your way. Is there some sort of resentment going on here? Have you cheated on her or somehow wronged her in the past, and she's now punishing you? This is really unsustainable for you and not going to end well. With her leaving the house and not contributing to the family at all, not helping with the kids at all, yeah, I kind of feel like this relationship might be over, but I feel like there's still a little bit more to unpack here as well. It really does sound like OP needs a break though, because this whole situation seems to be driving them batty, so I really do hope that OP got into therapy while going through this situation so that they had somebody to talk to while going through this process. Anyway, let's get on to the next update. This update is titled, "I Ruined My Wife's Life Again." First off, thank you for all the comments and DMs. Some context and clarification, since admittedly my post was emotionally charged since I typed it up after another argument. Post-birth, our kid's pediatrician office gave my wife those postpartum depression screening forms, and during the time of both, she scored pretty high and was suggested to see a therapist. With our second child, she scored significantly higher, and we, or I should say I, made an effort to get her the help she needs. She refused, so enter mother-in-law and nanny for support. I know what people will say and think, but this is one of the reasons I'm not 100% ready to just give up and file our life together away. Also, I know silently suffering in the near and long run of our kids' future will not add to a healthy atmosphere, but neither would a bitter and hate-filled divorce. I know some have compared it to the ripping off of a bandage, saying it'll hurt at first, but that pain goes away. But I'd rather try to spare my kids, thinking that their parents ended up hating each other because of them or something along those lines. I've told a few people I talked to in DM since my last post a little more insight on my personal life. Prior to my promotion, I was a PM managing teams and budgets, so out of habit, I planned for a lot of what ifs. That being said, I made a number of contingency plans if sadly things went south. So yes, I have talked to a lawyer, 3 actually, know our rights and what each of us is entitled to, have a draft settlement created and on hold until I feel I need to use it. I know what I want and am willing to offer more than what is fair for our kids' well-being, but also have a plan if we end up going to court. It's 100% on me that I'm suffering in silence, but I'm too stubborn to just give up. So while I'm venting, I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I endure it to keep the norm our kids know. Ensure my mother-in-law's treatments go uninterrupted. And of course, the hope my wife would finally be open to give therapy a shot and climb together to a better place. Thank you all again. I just wanted to update those who have been kind enough to check up via DM and comments. Apologies in advance for the lengthy post. It's a bit of an irony and coincidence that I made a follow-up from the update on the 6th of May 2024 I made on my original post during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, but I could really use another outlet outside of my therapist. My apologies if this isn't the storybook ending, destroying of a relationship people were hoping for. To save you a read, wife left. Came back like nothing happened. She made it about her. Nothing's changed. I'm continuing to be suffering mentally knowing nothing will change while trying to keep it together for our kids. Lots of takeout. The day after she packed up and left, my wife attempted to come back and take the kids with her to her sister's. Naturally, I was against this, and thankfully, so was her whole family, including said sister. Not only was it not fair to our kids for her to sweep them away into a home that's not theirs, but to put that financial and housing stress on the rest of her family, since she doesn't work, and her sister and her family, husband and 3 kids, stays with their dad in the house they grew up in. After a little over a week of being away, I guess she cooled off, so she just decided that it would be fine if she walked in the door with her bags as if she just came back from Target. She came to my office while I was working and angrily stared at me while I sat on a conference call meeting with my team, and I couldn't just jump off, as this is a busy time of the quarter for us. I guess that didn't sit well with her because once I took off my headset and closed my laptop, she started yelling at me about how much I really don't care about her and her well-being overall. At that moment, I couldn't do anything more than look at her and just shake my head. Mother-in-law came in after hearing my wife yelling and pulled her away, telling her to not bother me, while our nanny kept our youngest away from it all on the other side of the house. That night, after the kids were put to bed, I sat in my office by myself with a drink, as I have been doing for the past nights, and my wife came in. We talked, we argued, we cried, we drank. One thing led to another, and we were in bed. I wish I could say that was our making up, but the next sobering morning as we laid there, she went on about how hard it was for her the entire time she was gone. Literally, it was about her struggles staying at her family house in her old room with her dad and sister's family. How lucky I am to be able to stay here and do this and that, and buy this or do that and not stress as much as they did. How easy my and everyone else's in our family's lives are compared to hers, even though we had similar upbringings. My mind and heart broke that morning. I've been spiraling down since then, and this last week, I made another attempt to reconcile and talk things out. But I was met with a shouting match while trying to express my current stress and anxieties with life and work in general. Well, do you know how hard this is all for me? You're supposed to help me be happy. So when it comes to my happiness, stress, needs, and overall well-being, F me, get over it, right? We all have our own problems. You need to figure it out and get over them. I don't know who the woman I am at home with is, but this wasn't the woman I married and vowed to spend my life with and raise our kids together. Since that conversation, I've been noticeably distant with her. I've been sleeping in my office or on the couch or with my kids in their beds after putting either one of them to sleep. Still doesn't change her starting her day at 10 a.m. and sitting on her phone talking to her mom groups between cooking meals with the kids in both mother-in-law and nanny's care. Nothing has changed, and I doubt that anything will change. Sadly, I think even if we got a divorce, nothing would change or feel different anyway, since during my wife's leaving, the days seemed like any other day, except with a little more takeout than usual. My main fear there isn't that I would just lose my wife, I'd lose my kids in the process. So I guess it's sad to say the grand finale to my story, with like a lot of men and some women I've talked to here, I'll just continue to smile and suffer in silence. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called ParkESC. It says, "You aren't helping yourself or your kids. The marriage is over. Just file for divorce already." Another commenter down below called ElegantAd7826 said, "You should not suffer in silence. You need to contact lawyers and get a divorce for your mental health and your kids. They can see more than you think, even when they are young. Your wife is delusional if she thinks her life is so hard. Stay-at-home mom with a nanny and mommy's help and only one preschool kid? Oh, in what world does that sound stressful? Tell her the free ride is over, baby. She's just being a lazy piece of crap, and all of you are enabling her to be that way." Yeah, OP, I see it the same way the commenters do. It's time for you to formulate your exit plan. I know you said you were drawing up paperwork already, and you had the contingencies worked out, Well, now it's time to put one of them into play. I don't see things getting better here, and it'll be the best thing for you and for the kids if you two split up and figure out how to manage the kids afterwards. It even sounds like she might not want to be involved in that process, but we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Alright, on to OP's next update. This update is titled, I ruined my wife's life, so I ruined everyone else's too. I'm done. Wife said, I don't do crap and I'm not crap in front of the therapist and family Father's Day dinner. She got served. She's mad. She's trying to act perfect and I'm just waiting while taking care of my family, kids, my mom, and mother-in-law. Oh well, I'll just ruin everyone else's life too in my family. Secondly, to clear some confusion, I did not get 2 bachelor's and a master's while working 2 jobs at the same time, as some readers are assuming. Bachelor's number 1 graduated in the early 2000s, Bachelor's number 2 via online years, 2 classes a semester later while working 2 full-time jobs. Job number 1, hospital, 36-48 scheduled job. Number 2, big box store, 32 to 40 hours, spread out 7 days a week, to pay for both my and my wife's tuition because she decided to go back to school before we had kids. After graduating from Bachelor's number 2 and entering the industry I'm in now, I was able to work 1 job and get my master's. So no, I did not get 3 degrees at the same time or in that close succession. And I am surprised that I actually have to spell this out as someone working 2 jobs while going to school isn't that uncommon, or at least that's what I thought. My wife chooses not to work. She does technically have a job. She just barely works it to the point we forget she has a job. As in, she worked 1 day 4 to 5 months ago for 8 hours on a Tuesday, kind of barely works. Her job and manager is really supportive, flex PRN model, and gives her a list of days they need coverage, and she can choose to pick up a shift or not. While she can work more and only does just enough to keep up her license, she complains to our family of her career being on hold for one reason or the other, although she has the opportunity to work more if she opted to. All things considered, she has an available support circle around her for either decision she falls on. Our family, her job, and I have made multiple offers and taken many steps to open that door for her to go back to work. Nanny, mother-in-law moved in to help, I work from home, her crazy flex PRN schedule, etc., etc. But here we are. I am and have been in therapy for myself already. Aside from what I deal with at home, my work can be very debilitating in regard to my mental health, as well as physical at times. Since I can't find the support I need mentally and physically at home with my wife, I've opted to attend therapy rather than find comfort with someone outside of the home or at the bottom of a bottle. I've tried to express this to my wife, and as mentioned in my previous post, she has a habit of one-upping me, and here we are. My in-laws are still married. Given the circumstances in our home, my mother-in-law moved in to help out my wife, while my sister-in-law and her family moved back into their parents' house due to their own reasons. Sister-in-law and her family can save money while getting back on their feet, and my wife and I benefit from mother-in-law's help, and we can keep a closer eye on her while she undergoes bi-monthly treatments. My wife, by means of questionnaires, is highly suspected to have PPD, alongside with a history of symptomatic OCD, ADHD, amongst other ailments that over the years she has refused to get evaluated for, or refused to accept results given. I knew what I was getting into, and I love and accepted my wife for these flaws, as she did mine at the time. Spare me your I don't feel sorry for you or pity. I am like every other man who fell in love and wanted to give my person the best of me and the world I can offer. But again, here we are. There's a lot of manly men, Red Pill Nation guys out there complaining and saying I'm simping over my wife. While I respect your own opinions and perspectives, I will outright say this. If this situation was only affecting my life, I would have left a long time ago. As one Redditor said in a past comment that stuck to me, I am the kind of person that will take a bullet for his kids. Maybe it's in a different context intended, but to protect my children from any harm, physically or mentally, I'll take the proverbial bullet, if and as needed. I'd like to think other dads out there would respond to the duty to protect their children, and that's why I endured as much as I have. For the time being, I would rather my wife use me as an outlet for whatever her problems were versus our kids. Thank you all for the comments and reaching out. I've met many strangers who have become great Reddit pen pals, and some who have been in the know of every step that has been progressing to this point. I am surprised at how far this has gone, from other subreddits, other platforms, and even YouTube. Love me, hate me, say it's all fake, no matter where you stand, thank you for all the constructive comments and DMs to check in. Our kids and myself are going to be alright moving forward. Now for the update, the end of an era. This will be shorter than some expected, as really there's not much to say, but just satiate the questions some of you may have had and give people the satisfaction of the I told you so moment on Reddit. After a hard push from our family via an intervention, my wife and I finally attempted to go to marriage counseling. I'm sure many of you can guess how well that went. Blame, tears, regrets, gaslighting, with a side of I am the reason for her life being ruined and horrible, again. Just this time in front of a licensed therapist instead of Reddit or mom groups. In the end, everything the therapist suggested and noted went over her head and ignored as it was against the grain of her status quo. One thing I guess worth saying was that the therapist asked if she could recall when she last truly felt happy. Her response was about 12 or so years ago. Please note, 12 years ago, she was still in her 20s, childless, living with her ex, a vastly different time and position in life. I know it's petty of me, but I guess if that's when she was happy, it wouldn't be that far of a stretch for her to find that happiness again, since her ex is in the same apartment, job, and place in life that he was 12 years ago. Which is fine. If that's how you want to live, I try not to judge. But in my 40s with kids, going clubbing 3 to 4 days a week is not my jam anymore. And of course, I don't want my kids around a mom and company who drowns themselves in White Claws. To add, I know some will ask, I know and can confirm she hasn't physically cheated on me, but I can't confirm if she did emotionally, if that's the term. Right after said therapy session, I checked all her phone records and didn't see anything out of the ordinary. But I also didn't bother to check apps like Instagram or Snapchat. I know I'm probably boring, but shout out to all the Costco dads whose Sunday fun day includes making rounds with kids for samples. The following weekend was Father's Day, and this year, as expected, not that big of a celebration as it is for many dads out there. Our family got together to celebrate with a barbecue and just simple family time. And my wife treated it like any other day. Sleep in, get up, cook, phone, shop, attempt to play with kids, phone. During said family barbecue, my wife said she felt ill, so she sat around most of the day while the rest of the family as a whole made the experience enjoyable. When everything was set up and the family all sat at the table, her parents and sister's family, my mother, our kids, admittedly it was a great spread. Nothing extravagant, but just a great meal for everyone. I was conversing with my brother-in-law about both of our kids' school Father's Day activities, and I assume my wife overheard when I mentioned that it was a little sad to see some kids sit alone without their fathers during the Breakfast with Dad event I attended. She blurted out with a laugh loud enough for the whole room to hear, "It's not like you do anything anyway. I could have gone instead." At that moment, I was red and at a loss for words, sitting there processing what she said in my head, while the dining room went dead silent. My mother-in-law broke the awkwardness and in response said, "Well, maybe if you feel that way, one of you should divorce the other." My wife looked at my mother-in-law confused that she would respond with that and laughed mockingly in my direction, and with her hand pointing at me said, "As if another woman would want a man like him, just look at you," while the room sat silent. I was angry, heartbroken, confused, and embarrassed all at the same time. In manly man fashion, I just nodded my head in silence, stood up, and picked up my keys, and got in my truck, and drove off to get a drink, while trying to ignore the cries of the rest of the family, and our kids telling me to stay. I don't know what was said or done while I was out of the house the rest of Sunday, because I couldn't bring myself to check our house cameras. But when I returned early Monday morning, the house had a completely different feel. As usual, I woke up around 6, got the house and our oldest ready for school drop-off, checked emails, checked messages, nothing out of the ordinary. As I was getting dressed to leave, my wife laid in our bed snoring lightly. All I could do was look at her and think of what we had, and now lost. I've decided I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I texted my lawyer that morning to move forward with serving her. Fast forward to last week, she was served at our home. Reminder to people, I had no choice but to be there because I work from home. She had, I guess what you could call a mini meltdown, and came into my office screaming, how could I do this to her? Her mother intervened, and that was met with me supposedly turning her whole family against her. But I digress. I probably would have felt bad if it wasn't immediately followed by the rest of her week acting as if she's been this active and attentive wife and mother the past few years. Sure, people can say she's making an attempt, but she's made many attempts, and historically, we fall back to where we've been. For those curious, I am aiming for full or at least majority custody of our kids. I already and will continue to cover all the expenses for our kids, insurance, tuition. Both of our kids are and will be attending private schools come fall, medical bills, etc. My mother-in-law has given me the courage and strength that helps supplement my own mother support throughout this. Basically, she is what I hope the kind of mother and wife my wife would have been to our kids and me. Out of respect for my mother-in-law, as well as per my own mother's shared wishes, I will continue to help oversee and contribute financial help if needed during her treatments. While some may feel I should cut their whole family off, I know the hardships pushed onto a family while dealing with cancer, and have dealt with it firsthand as a family member and care provider on both sides of the desk. All in all, I'm prepared to go to war if needed, but I just want a clean, no-fuss divorce. My wife has no alimony coming, so sorry for the Redditors and mommy gang Facebook groups saying she needs to divorce me first and get that sweet, sweet alimony money. 1, we live in a state that does not typically enforce alimony. 2, she has a means of gainful employment immediately. 3, to help curb any possible problems, I will cover her insurance and bills until either divorce is finalized or when she gains full employment. So that's it. I'm done and waiting for the steps to be taken for everything to be finalized. Sorry it wasn't as exciting of a story with plot twist as some may have hoped for, but that's life. Not sure I'll update this once it's all finalized, which probably won't be for a few more months, depending if we go to war or not. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called ChapterPresent4773. It says, "It's so good to hear that you're getting the break you need in the future. I really hope you get full custody of the kids. Your soon-to-be ex is not in the right place, nor the right mind to provide for them. I wish you all the strength you'll need. Good luck." OP responded to this one and said, "Thank you, it's a point in my case. At the very least, until she can show she can support herself, I'm pushing for full custody." Another commenter down below called Morpheus146 said, "Effing finally. You may not realize, but your kids will appreciate a lot the fact you divorced their mother. Sure, it might take a while to adjust to the new norm, but with some therapy, they will be fine. Kids are quick to adjust to changes. If you would have continued eating those bullets and maybe waiting until your children had turned 18 each to divorce that POS that does nothing but get brain rot with all her scrolling on the phone, you would have grown bitter and resentful all that time. Heck, it might have led into an affair on both sides, and in the end, leading to the inevitable divorce. So cut your losses while your children are still young, and you didn't invest further time into this doomed relationship. Your kids would notice your chances as you get more happy with your newfound freedom, so to speak, even if it would reach the point of 50-50 custody, which I doubt. Wish you luck on the custody plans. Sucks that you might have to co-parent with a broad like that. Like, for real, she is a train wreck. Too many mental problems going in her bin. Oh, and after reading the part with the marriage counseling where she was last happy, I can draw the observation that she settled for you. You never want a partner that settles for you. Never. You might be a nice guy, I really don't know, so look into that if you have the characteristics of a nice guy or white knight. Work on that. If you get into depression swings, find time to hit the gym. It will do wonders. Lastly, wish you luck with the divorce and hope for the best for you and your kids. Continue updating. Reddit loves drama. OP responded to this one and said, Thanks, man. I appreciate your response, well wishes, and you made some valid points. I'm not sure if infidelity would be in my character, but who knows? At the very least, in that aspect, I can say I was loyal and devoted while doing what I can. I am, though, lucky that I did opt to do this now versus later, whereas my lawyer pointed out any more prolonging of her returning to the workforce would be more against me than her. I can't really say if she's settled for me or not. I guess I am a nice guy, but I am also not Captain Save-A-Ho. If this was our situation early on before kids, I would have left long time ago. Maybe she played the long game, as some of the guys in my men's group mentioned, but hey, at least I cut my losses early on. If her definition of ideal man is her ex, have at it and be happy, and leave my kids out of your life together. I won't say he's a bad or great guy, of course, but I will say we're at two different career and income levels, and with different focuses in life. I like spending time with my kids. He likes to day drink on a Wednesday. But hey, fun is fun, and I try not to judge. Home gym is part of my routine before waking up my oldest for school to get ready. OP, you're absolutely making the right decision, and I'm so glad to hear that you're in therapy while this is going on. I know it was for previous issues, but being able to have somebody else to talk through this whole situation is a wonderful thing. I hope you get the custody of the kids that you're looking for as well, but I do hope that she's not cut out completely from seeing them, because they do need that other side of the family, even if it's just to show how they don't want to grow up and be like. Alright, let's get into OP's final update. It's titled, I Ruined My Wife's Life, and I Don't Care Anymore. In respect to the subreddit, I guess I should get it off my chest that as much as I don't want to care anymore, I still do to some degree. Thank you for all the comments, messages, and to the handful of people who have become Reddit pen pals throughout my journey in this matter. It took some time for me to update, as between adjusting to my new life and slowly cutting ties with the past and moving forward for our children, family, and work has been my priority. With that, I wanted to provide an update for those who may have been curious. Since my last update, I've been under the scrutiny of our social circles and labeled every typical toxic man-husband stereotype that Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram has to offer. As much as I hate the saying, I kind of understand the "you know my name but not my story" posts now. With that said, these strangers or alienated family and friends can take their opinions and go F themselves, because in the end, if our kids are happy, healthy, and flourishing under my toxic household, what's it to you? The more important updates, we're divorced. I have majority custody, and even though my ex is now trying to be the present mother whenever her now busy schedule allows, it is too little too late. My mother-in-law continues to be responding well to treatments, and sister-in-law has now taken over where my ex was supposed to be in helping oversee her care. Post-divorce, I recently moved homes and jobs and accepted the next step forward career-wise, which my company has been kind enough to slowly transition me into the role as leadership understands what I'm going through at home. Interestingly, it's amazing how common my story is amongst my colleagues and network. I am sad or happy to say I am now one of the newer members of the Fellowship of Divorce Directors and Execs. As sad as it may sound, it is nice to know that many understand and are willing to offer a high degree of support, advice, assistance, and guidance as needed. The divorce itself was quick, but it still had its sad and angry moments, and many of the people in my camp think my ex got away with robbery. But the fact that I was awarded majority custody and per agreement have our kids almost every day and know they're safe under my roof is worth every cent. While I had no say or real cares how my ex moved forward with mediation as long as she agreed to terms, I think the biggest slap in the face to me was how she delegated her boyfriend as someone to advise her throughout this process, because his opinion is more important than any lawyer who isn't looking out for my best interest. At this point, the holidays were around the corner, and I didn't want this to disrupt the holidays for our kids and family. While I was prepared to go to court, my ex did not want to diminish her payout, and I just wanted things over and done with. I'll leave out the finer details of the terms, but in exchange for having majority custody and taking care of all expenses related to our children, I would give her that lump sum she was aiming for with no request of child support on my end. She kept all her tangible possessions, car, bags, clothes, jewelry. I had to sell the home and split the profits from the sale and foot the bill on taxes. Gave her almost all our joint bank accounts after legal fees. And to top it off, laughably, she argued rights to alimony, which she's not getting. As a PSA, don't rely on your legal advice from Facebook groups. In the end, reality sinks in. I'd like to think overall I'm a simple man. All I wanted to do was get married, have a family, and provide. With that goal in mind, I somehow got into a position where my spouse was able to choose if she wanted to work or not, and not worry about anything outside of our family. How it turned out like this, I can't pinpoint. I'll admit I'm a bit oblivious of what I did. But maybe it's my own fault, as some people stated, and I brought this onto myself. Post-settlement, I ended up downsizing and closed on a smaller but spacious house for the three of us and our dog, with a separate generational suite in our backyard for my mother-in-law to stay, as she wished to stay involved in our kids' care, regardless of if I was married to her daughter or not. Honestly, I made sure that addition to the home was available for her because I hoped she would be able and open to help until the kids were a little bit older. For what it's worth, it seems my ex found her happiness, luxury trips in a short time frame she wanted, her boyfriend and her moved to a bigger place to stay, luxury high-rise studio, but still no place for our kids to stay. Her boyfriend got his dream car, and a long list of expenses and shopping sprees that kinda benefit our kids, if at all in any way, sprinkled in her social media accounts. She's rocking Cartier while our kids are sporting Carters. My ex came to visit our cute little house to visit our kids and mother-in-law and complimented me on my choice of home, and that I was able to keep up the status quo of our home without her. I'm sure many will see the irony in this. I'm not entirely sure her motive or if I'm just reading too deep into it, but she dropped lines about how stressful and expensive their living expenses, rent, utilities, cell and internet service and insurance are, groceries are now, and how surprised she was how much it costs to feed her, her boyfriend, and whoever the heck else comes into their home. I'm not sure why, but she initially was under the impression the generational suite was meant for her use when she has the time and wants to co-parent. She is even more tired and struggling with her schedule now because she works a total of 48 hours a week and forced to work overtime at times, and her boyfriend works, but I didn't dig or care about the details. But I do care that I think she thinks I don't notice that she takes some of our usual household staples and items with her before she left. Mainly, bottles of soap she always bought for our home, Sonicare replacement brush heads and other toiletries, a new unopened bottle of the Mountain Valley water from the fridge when she visits. And I may be reading too deep into something again, but sometimes I find some of the Insta pics from the fridge missing. Usually it's just of the kids or mother-in-law and the kids, but a few were of the four of us in the past. Although her White Claw fund takes precedence over their home Charmin 2-ply supply, I try to be as accommodating as possible so that she can still be involved with our kids, allowing her to drop by our home whenever, if ever she can. Still work primarily from home, so I'm always here, and keeping her in the loop about activities and such. It was nice to see she was able to make it to our youngest's first Christmas school assembly, where our eldest had speaking parts in the play before work. Later that week, I brought our kids to bring her a plate of food on Christmas Day at the hospital because she had holidays to work. I'd be lying if I said that didn't hurt or that I didn't feel uncomfortable with the stares and whispers from her coworkers while I waited for the kids to excitedly give her their presents and wish their mom a Merry Christmas. Even though she was trying to be welcoming, all I could do was say Merry Christmas and wave goodbye from the distance as we left. This past Christmas, as with many blessings I have to be thankful for, it all felt so hollow at the same time. During New Year's Eve, I embraced my inner Pinterest dad trying to make everything as festive and fun as possible, and copied ideas of doing a countdown at 9 p.m. for the kids with a balloon drop in our living room and popping some fireworks as soon as the sun set. On that note, I should mention that I rediscovered my love of cooking, something I did for years while a bachelor with my roommates, and the stress of a 4- and 6-year-old insisting that their mini versions of Gordon Ramsay can provide Michelin-level sous chef services. With the kids tucked away and asleep, I rang in the new year with my dog and a drink. Scrolling on my phone, with the sounds of fireworks popping in the distance, I saw that my ex was living her best life in her new life, snap after snap after snap. So I made a mental checklist for the end of 2024. Self-esteem almost gone. Confidence hanging by a thread. Ability to open and trust anyone outside of my current inner circle and dog non-existent. Hatred towards my ex and her newfound life surprisingly gone. All I could do is just laugh a little at the snap on my phone. She left me, she hurt me, but she did not destroy me. We're now two different people with two different lives, and I must move forward for the ones I owe it to. Other than the connection of our kids and some immediate family, we have no more connections, and I really have no interest in acting like I was in my 20s, in my 40s, and spending half my paycheck on liquor because it's Tuesday and New Year's Eve. Maybe I'm just boring, but I can and only want to focus on my kids and ensure that their lives and future is the best that I can provide. Ensure the people and projects I oversee stay afloat and going in this economy. And last but not least, make sure both my mother and ex-mother-in-law are taken care of in the future moving forward. Advice from what I learned. To the men out there, if you're in a similar situation, don't give up hope. But keep in mind, actions, records, and overall proof speaks louder than your words. It's an uphill battle, but no man has to fight it alone. Plan, prepare, seek reputable counsel and advice, and in the end, execute. As hard as it may be, stay focused and be as objective as possible in these times. And most importantly, follow through with what you say and promise to your kids. To the women, stay off social media and comparing your life to others. Just kidding. The first piece of advice applies to anyone, regardless of how you identify. I don't think I'll be updating anymore, but I do plan to keep this alt just for my Reddit pen pals, so feel free to say hi, cause it's nice to have new friends. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Diza Daimonia. It says, all she did was take your cash and blow it all. Now she's trying to desperately keep up a fake lifestyle. Honestly, give her nothing. Like, actively make sure she gets not a penny from you. Focus on the kids. Focus on yourself. In a couple of years, if your salary is sizable, you'll be retired, traveling the world, and relaxing with your dog. She'll be scrabbling around, trying to make ends meet and running up debt. She would have dug your gold mine dry years ago. Let her suffer. Opie responded and said, thanks for the comment. Per our agreement, if she actually read it, she's entitled to nothing moving forward from me. So once what she won is gone, that's it. Luckily, I'm in a decent role, so our children will get to experience the world, traveling with me, and have memories in the future. Retirement personally won't happen until I know our kids can take care of themselves, at the very least financially. All I hope is that in the future, their mother isn't relying on them to support her. Another user down below called the Mockingbird said, the petty theft might not be serious enough to warrant a discussion and fight, but I'd strongly consider taking away her access to your home. She isn't a friend, nor are you her therapist. I'd recommend downloading a co-parenting app and communicating through that. If the kids need to be dropped off, do it outside. And block her on social media. Maybe you've moved on, but watching her post stuff online is redundant. Unless it involves your kids, this woman should mean nothing to you. Opie responded and said, thanks, I had others suggest the same. And while the petty theft is to me what I consider nothing serious, if it escalates, then yes, in the near future, I'll be more firm. For the time being, in the 2 months we've been in our new home, I'm trying to give our kids a sense of some continuity, and allowing my ex to see her mother, as she only wants to live and stay around here now. I didn't mention it, but after New Year's Eve, I completely deleted Snap and Instagram for this and professional reasons, and turned off notifications from Facebook from her. In regard to my ex meaning nothing to me, as simpic as it may sound, she'll always have some, as she's the mother of our kids. The degree of how far that meaning goes, I wouldn't go as far as saying she's nothing more than a walking womb surrogate, but I also wouldn't go out of my way to change a flat tire for her, even if her car was in my driveway. OP, this is the best situation that you could be in because she just obviously wasn't willing to be part of that relationship. You're doing everything for your kids now, and you have the benefit of working at home where the kids will see you all the time. That is an absolute win. Also, I want to say that I hugely respect you for taking care of your mother-in-law now. because you're not obligated to do that. But I can tell that you love that woman and you want to see what's best for her. And having her around to help is just a bonus in that case as well. OP, please don't stop going to therapy. It sounds like you still need someone to talk to. And we're all here on Reddit waiting for updates. So if you decide to post another one, by all means do so. We've got thousands of people here waiting to hear how you're doing. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.